In life, what is your greatest fear?
What if the things we imagined about came true?
Are you afraid to fail too?
What if the ability to imagine was a power?
What will you do if your greatest fear becomes a reality?
Can we use imagination to change the world or to benefit ourselves?
Hello everyone! Today we are going to discuss the fringe benefits of failure and the importance of imagination by J.K. Rowling. So in the title, the fringe benefits, it means that additional benefits. So as the title says, there are two parts of the speech. So the first is the fringe benefits of failure and the second one is the importance of imagination. So in 2008, J.K. Rowling wrote and gave a commencement speech to the graduating class of Harvard University. So she decided in her speech to talk about the fringe benefits of failure and the importance of imagination. Also, the speech topics is paradoxical or ironical because these two topics are not related to each other. So in this speech, Rowling tries to convey the message that failing can be beneficial for an individual and that people should not be afraid to use their imagination. So Rowling begins the speech with a reflection on what went through her mind while writing the speech, how the process affected her, and she talks about her life. So slowly and selflessly, Rowling provides an insight into her world, heart, and mind as she presents her arguments with strong emotional emphasis and valid evidence for her impactful persuasion. So she said, I have asked myself what I wish I had known at my own graduation and what important lessons I have learned in the 21 years that have expired between the day and this. So Rowling solicits this statement as she begins to dive into her presentation with grace and style, reminding the audience that she too was once of them. So during this time, Rowling asked herself what she wished she had known at her graduation and came up with two main ideas of this speech, which is the merits of failure and significance of imagination. So to emphasize her relationship with the audience, Rowling speaks on her experience with parental expectations and her lack of desire to follow through. So instead, she follows her heart and yearning desire to write, which consequently lead to her creation of the Harry Potter Spectacular. So she ditched German and took literature without her parents' knowledge, and it was only found out on her graduation day. So as she continues, she stated that there is an expiry date on blaming your parents for steering you in the wrong direction. The moment you are old enough to take the wheel, responsibility lies with you. So blaming anyone else doesn't help you either way. You have a choice to change your life for better or worse. So the expiry date is when you realize how much influence your parents and the way they brought you up has had on your inner thoughts or voice. So then you can consciously do something about it and change. So this can be at any age. You can't live your whole life blaming your parents. Our parents are our biggest teachers, but we all know right from wrong. So it is up to the individual to correct their flaws of learned behavior and change it so they don't educate their children the same. Then she added that her parents are hoping that she would never experience poverty. For her, poverty entails fear and stress and sometimes depression. It means 1,000 petty humiliations and hardships. So climbing out of poverty by your own efforts, that is indeed something on which to pride yourself. But poverty itself is romanticized only by the fools. Then she stated that what she feared most for herself at her age was not poverty but failure. So at this, Rowling begins her discussion on the benefits of failure by first acknowledging her adolescent fear of failure that transpired in her college career. So she said, I had a knack for passing examinations and that 4 years had been the measure of success in my life and that of my peers. So in this, in spite of a distinct lack of motivation at university, where she had spent far too long in the coffee bar writing stories and far too little time on lectures, she still passed the examination because it was the course she loves. But after 7 years of graduation, she was an epic failure. So at that point of time, she called herself an epic failure because her marriage was short-lived and her husband abandoned her. So they had a daughter. She needed to look up to her daughter but found herself divorced, unemployed, a single parent, and quite poor. So in other words, her greatest fear had become a reality. But in this difficult situation, she found liberty. So Rowling restates that her fears become a reality that led into a tunnel with an unforeseeable light at the end. So this statement leads into Rowling's demonstration of self-discovery. So she stopped pretending to herself that she was anything other than what she was, and began to direct all her energy into finishing the only work that mattered to her, or she started focusing on the things that she is good, like writing. So she became determined because she was set free, and because she had realized that she was still alive, even though her greatest fear came into her life. And she still had a daughter whom she adored, and she had an old typewriter and a big idea. And these three things became her solid foundation on which she rebuilt her life. So at her lowest, Rowling had no way of knowing how her story would play out. The success she would achieve at that stage was merely a dream, and yet she had this to say about how failure served her. Then Rowling states, it is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default. So in life, a person needs to be able to make mistakes in order to learn from them and grow. And by making mistakes, an individual can discover aspects about their character that they did not know before. So failure can teach us one lesson, such as things that we didn't know about ourselves. We learn what's important to us, what our priorities are, how we learn, and how we can grow. So figuring out where to go and how to succeed can be a real self-exploration. She also said, failure gave her an inner security that she had never attained by passing examination. So which even though she passed her examinations before, it never satisfied her that she attained something. Unlike the failure that she suffered that boosted her to be a better individual and to discover herself and her potential. So lastly, she said that failure taught me things about myself that I could have learned in two other ways. I discovered that I had a strong will and more discipline than I had suspected. I also found out that I had friends whose value was truly above the price of rubies. The knowledge that you have emerged wiser and stronger from setbacks means that you are ever after secure in your ability to survive. And you will never truly know yourself or the strength of your relationships until both have been tested by adversity. Such knowledge is a true gift for all that is painfully won, and it has been worth than any qualification I ever earned. So at this, Rowling attempts to urge graduates to have the humility to discern between living a life of check-off accomplishments and putting fears aside in order to let failure teach essential life lessons. So according to Rowling, failure helped her to discover her strengths and know who her friends are. She doesn't say that everyone should experience being brought low in order to succeed, but rather than failing is not the end, and that is beneficial to us too.
The author J.K. Rowling discusses the importance of imagination. Imagination rebuilt her life to be the greatest and become an extraordinary woman. She believed that imagination is not only the uniquely human capacity to envision that which is not, but therefore the fount of all invention and innovation. In its arguably most life-changing and revelatory capacity, it is the power that enables us to empathize with humans whose experiences we have never shared. It means that imagination is a very powerful force because it creates a meaningful change in every human life. The author shared her greatest formative experience in life, which started with creating the most famous novel, Harry Potter. It has been her job every day of her life, and this is where her life revolves. She also shared that she offered her life and time to help an African research department and Amnesty International headquarters in London. The author saw the tragic events and injustice that the people of Africa are experiencing, and it opened her eyes to a wider understanding of the miserable lives of Africans. She stated, "I saw a photograph of those who had disappeared without a trace, sent to Amnesty by their desperate families and friends. I read a testimony of torture victims and saw a picture of their injuries. I opened handwritten eyewitnesses' accounts of summary trials and execution of kidnapping and rapes. I shall never forget the African torture victim, a young man no older than I was at the time, who had become mentally ill after all he had endured in his homeland. He trembled uncontrollably as spoke into a video camera about brutality inflicted about him. He was a foot taller than I was and seemed as fragile as a child. I shall remember walking along an empty corridor and suddenly hearing from behind a closed door a scream of pain and horror such as I have never heard since. The door opened and the researcher poked out her head and told me to run and make a hot drink for a young man sitting with her. She had just had to give her the news that, in retaliation for his own outspokenness against his conscious regime, his mother had been seized and executed. The author emphasizes how fortunate she is to reside in a nation that upholds equality and existing law. The author emphasizes her terrifying nightmare. She discovered proof of the evil that certain human beings perpetrate one another in order to acquire a hold onto power. She also recognizes the goodness in other hearts. The author discusses the power of amnesty with his audience. Amnesty prevents violence, torture, and wrongful imprisonment from taking the life of innocent people. The power of human empathy, which lead to collective actions, save lives and frees prisoners, what you call ordinary people, whose personal well-being and security are guaranteed, come together in a great number to save people they don't know and will never know, she said. Adding that her participation in the process was one of the most humbling and inspiring experiences of her life. The author wanted to convey that humans can learn to understand without having experienced anything. They can think themselves into other people's places, which means that through our imagination we can easily control what we think. It is our duty to use this power coupled with our privilege to make the world a better place. Imagination is power. As the author says, it's like a magic that we can easily control and manipulate just to understand and empathize. She also wanted to convey that many prefer not to exercise their imagination, which means that others stay within the boundaries where they are comfortable with their experiences. They can refuse to hear screams or to peer inside cages. They can close their minds and hearts to any suffering that does not touch them personally. They can refuse to know. Means that she's about those people that have the privilege in life of the phrase, any suffering does not touch them personally. And because of that, they don't prefer to widen their imagination, since there is a phrase that says, never trembling to wonder how it would feel to have been born other than they are. She also wanted to convey that, unlike her, she was a woman full of imagination, that turned into action that helped her face the realities of life that the other don't care about. The enemy of the progress are the willfully imaginative, because we could all fall into a trap where we refuse to hear scream or peer into cages. That is, those who choose not to empathize and evil true monster, for without ever committing an act of outright evil ourselves, we collude with through our own empathy. It means that the author wanted to convey that we might be the monster who doesn't care about suffering, that we might be the monster who didn't find ways to make our imagination creative and purposeful. So she wanted to tell us that we should use our imagination and value it to the most because that is how we build and create strong foundation for a better future. The author also shared her learnings in life. She said what we achieve inwardly will change outer reality, which means that the author wanted to convey that what we understand is not understood by others because in reality we have differing perspectives, views, and imagination. We tend to understand things based on our situation and what we have lived based on what reality is all about. What we have achieved to understand is sometimes misinterpreted by the others. The author wanted to inspire graduates by saying that what you achieve gives you a unique status and unique responsibilities, and everything take responsibility and obligation needed to be fulfilled. No matter who you are or what status you have, because all of us have the power to change the world. If you choose to use your status and influence to raise your voice on behalf of those who have no voice, if you choose to identify not only with the powerful but with the powerless, if you retain the ability to imagine yourself into the lives of those who do not have your advantage, then it will not only be your proud families who celebrate your existence, but a thousand and millions of people who in reality you have helped change. We don't need magic to change the world. We carry all the power we need inside ourselves already. We have the power to imagine better. So the author wants to say that we have the power to make the world a better place. We have the power to create a path to give comfort to those in need. And we already have the power to build a better future without the need of magic because all it needs is belief in one's own ability. The author also shared her insight about friendship. The friends with whom I sat on graduation day have been my friends for life. And here the author shared that the importance of friendship is treasure that can never be replaced. A friend is our partner in hardship and our companion in pleasure. So the author wants us to be wise in choosing the people around us because a friend is the one who will help us to achieve our success.